Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Native Plants at Noon, Lawn versus Native Habitat, Platte Ridge Park Site Study. I'm Cydney Ross. I'll be your host today. I'm the Outdoor Education Manager for Deep Roots. And I'm telling y'all, I love hosting each of these episodes, but we have a particularly special program for you today. But before we begin, I just want to thank our sponsor, Missouri Department of Conservation, for connecting our community to the outdoors. We appreciate each and every one of you who have dedicated yourselves to being good stewards of our landscape. And we also appreciate viewers like you. I want to give a shout out to our Discover Native Gardening sessions held 5 times a month at the Anita B. Gorman Conservation Discovery Center. Learn skills, connect with nature, and have fun. This is a great way to learn about gardening with native plants. I host each of these worked sessions, and I promise you they're a lot of fun and a great educational experience. I'm especially excited for our August 20th. That's going to be on a Tuesday from 8 to 10 a.m. at the Discovery Center. Woodland Wonders, how to ID and maintain full shade plants. And we'll have a guest expert, Taylor Neff, who is our urban forester from Missouri Department of Conservation. I'll be sure to send resources following today's show, which will allow you to sign up and see what other topics we have coming up this season. As always, this webinar will be recorded. All resources will be available online, and we'll email you a link and resources following today's show. Don't forget, drop your comments in the chat and put your questions in the Q&A. Cassandra Messer will be joining us following today's program to answer your questions live. Please visit deeproots.org for more information on upcoming events, webinars, native gardening resources, and how you can get involved. Also consider making a donation while you're there. All right, I would like to welcome Cassandra Messer to the virtual stage. Cassandra has worked for the Missouri Department of Conservation since 2016 after graduating from the University of Central Missouri. Cassandra's career started as a forestry aide where she first began her prescribed fire journey. After her time in forestry, she took a position as a fisheries technician with the department and is now a private land conservationist for Clay and Platte County. Along the way, she gained further experience with burning, including 2 Western fire details to Idaho and Northern California. Cassandra is just full of knowledge about managing not just forests, but prairies and other natural areas. We are very lucky to have her joining us for another program of Native Plants at Noon to offer her expertise. So Cassandra, I'd love for you to go ahead and join us if you're able. There you are. Hey, Cassandra.
Hello.
So Cassandra, you have such an intimate relationship with Platte Ridge Park, which we're about to view in today's episode. I was wondering if you could just let our audience know a little bit more about your background and connections to this park and why it's so important to you.
Yeah, so I really, first of all, I love working with community spaces just because, it's just such a great showcase for people on what native plants can look like. And so Platte Purchase Park was actually, or Platte Ridge Park was actually my coworker, my previous coworker who had my position in Platte County, he started the project. So he's the one that actually initially had the contacts and got the seed in the ground. And my first meeting with them was they had a management question. And so they reached out to me after I had started, and they were concerned with the amount of sunflower in their planting. And so we talked about the benefits of the sunflower and maybe do we want to get rid of it, or do we want to tame it down, or do we just want to keep it how it is? Because there could be worse things that could take over other than that. And then they also I went out there to do just a checkup, like a review of the practice, and just I walk along with the maintenance person, and we talk all the time about the management of that property. So I really enjoy working with them up there in Platte County.
That's awesome. Well, it's evident in today's program. So, folks, I hope you will stick around for the Q&A, which Cassandra will be joining us at following today's program. And for those who stick around to the end, we will have a pop quiz. where you can win your very own set of native plant cards by local artist Nancy Waugh. So these are some of my favorites. I especially love the Blue False Indigo. As many of you know, it's one of my favorite native plants. So stick around till the end of today's program for your chance to win a set. All right, Cassandra, thank you so much. And everyone, we will go ahead and get started.
So this is a really unique opportunity at a city park, county park, I guess. And actually they have free fishing days here. They have lots of wildlife opportunities and trails. There's also some sports complexes over here. But yeah, this fishing area is definitely a large draw for this park, 100%. Hi, I'm Cassandra Messer with the Missouri Department of Conservation. I'm a private and community lands conservationist for Platte and Clay County here in Missouri. So, private land conservationists, we do a wide variety of things. We're kind of known as the jack of all trades in the conservation field. But our job is to really go out to people's properties, answer phone calls, give them the best advice for their property. If you're dealing with maybe a nuisance plant and you don't know how to take care of it, just kind of know what should be on your land historically, what would do well there naturally, and then once we kind of scope out what your goals are and what your capabilities are, make a plan with you to help you attain that goal, whether that be getting just rid of invasives or planting a native prairie planting on your property, or even with this in a city area. And at that point, we provide you with all the steps of how to do it, the timeline, what seeds to purchase, and then we can also provide cost share to do that work, and maybe even equipment to do the work as well. So we just try as much as possible to help you. Our goal, because Missouri is about 93–94% privately owned land, it's a big goal for the department, a big initiative and a big requirement really of our government, MDC, to help private landowners convert or at least maintain some native land for the wildlife in our state. And today we're here at Platte Ridge Park in Platte County. It's a real beautiful spot, and the reason why we're here is because I really wanted to talk about the differences in land management and what that means for wildlife and even for humans, and just kind of to show you what it can look like at maybe your city park, maybe your yard, maybe your acreage. Just kind of talk about the benefits and what you see in these spots visually and audibly. So I want to take a second firstly to have you really listen to the sounds you're hearing in this spot right here. This is a restored prairie that we did, as you can see from the sign here, restored prairie area, where we planted, I believe it was 5 to 10 years ago, and so they manage it, and it was done in cooperation with the Missouri Department of Conservation and NRCS. And this is a restored prairie sound, and what it sounds like, what it looks like. And I just kind of want you to listen to that and kind of see how it makes you feel, and what does it make you think of. So I'll give you a moment to just think about that here. So this was parkland before this, but it was all just fescue, mowed. They mowed a lot, and that's what a conversation that I have with private landowners and communities that just mow so much. And mowing is expensive, labor intensive. You need staff, timing, and equipment to do all the work. And so they really wanted to delve into what they could make this for not only beautification, but also for the economic side of it. How can we save time and money? And this was a really great spot to start with. Like I said, it was just mowed fescue, just like we would see pretty much anywhere. And later today, we're going to show you another part they kept mowed, just to show you the difference in habitat and what we hear and see. But yeah, so this was mowed down, and their goals were to stop mowing as much, as well as to just create a different habitat. And actually, the local cross-country teams, they run on here. It's a real nice running area for them, nice and cool, shaded, beautiful sights and sounds, a little bit different than where else they would run in the county. So that was kind of the goals with this project. So along with the sights and sounds, I just want to talk about the species diversity here and kind of why that's important. So just a couple right off the top here. We see lots of sawtooth sunflower. You can see those serrated edges on here. You can see there's a lot of it here. This planting really took on with the sawtooth sunflower. So it's something we actually have to manage for at this point, but it's not a bad thing to manage for. It's great for wildlife, creates really good seed heads. And then we can also see some daisy fleabane right here, getting ready to flower out. Not quite flowering yet, but it's getting ready to. In the background, along with these white flowers, kind of like a daisy, you also see some foxglove beard tongue, and that's an early spring bloomer. So that's what we're going to see this time of year. Something really cool about the plantings that we plant is that we really focus on all year round blooms. So yes, not all of the sunflowers are blooming yet. It's kind of a midsummer, late summer bloomer, but we specifically pick our seed mixes based on every season. There's going to be a bloom, so spring, summer, fall blooms. So that's our goal with the plantings. We've also seen some bee balm in here. Again, not quite flowering out yet. But yeah, there's a lot of diversity. Even we have orchard grass over here on the edges. This is a cool season grass. I think it has a really cute seed head. It's my favorite.
Oh my god,
grass,
so cute.
actually.
Look at that.
But you see the bugs using it. I mean, that's great wildlife food right there. And then you can see our fescue still kind of mixed in here. Right here. So you still have fescue coming on the edges, which is going to happen whenever you have a trail in parks, but at least we have a lot of seed heads. I mean, fescue's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
We just don't want only cool season grasses. But whenever we're talking about all these different species, I really want to talk about what this means for wildlife and even for like human health, right? And soil health. So soil health is really important. We don't talk about it enough, in my opinion. And most of our parks and our yards are short mowed grasses, and what that means is that sunlight, is that the sunlight is going to hit that ground a lot quicker, and it's going to heat up that soil, and the microbiome under the soil is really going to be affected by that. Whereas this sunflower, I mean, they just did a management technique this year, so it's shorter than it will probably be up above my head by the end of the summer. But this is really protecting and shading out that soil down there, so that's going to protect all the microbiome, the bugs that the birds eat. And let alone this native planting also has bare space in between. If you look in here, a little quail chick could easily run around in there, and that's what they need to eat, is the bugs that were on that orchard grass and all these grasses and flowers. They're going to run through all that bare space. Whereas if you just have a fescue grass, here's like a little tiny example, it gets really thick, right? And those little chicks can't get through that. And so that's a big problem that we're having with ground nesting birds. It's hard for them to get around. Their chicks are tiny and they need space to get around. So these are a great way for the chicks to get around. And you can hear the dickcissel and the meadowlark and the cardinals. There's so many birds around here. We've seen a lot of pollinators buzzing around, a lot of bugs, and that's what chicks eat. Primarily their food source. So if we just use chemicals in our lawns and we have short mowed grass only primarily, that's really damaging those species well-being. So this is a great example of what a planting can look like and the benefits of those plantings on the wildlife here in Platte County. Grasses are very hard to ID. Even I can't ID all of them yet, but fescue is a big one that everyone basically has. And it's important to recognize fescue because it can really invade on like our natural plantings that we plant. And so one of the best ways that I found to identify it is rubbing your fingers opposite of the leaves, like down the leaf. And it's very rough to the touch, very scratchy. I think I've rubbed some of it off already. But yeah, just you can feel it's like sandpapery a little bit. And that's different from most grasses. So if you see that, it's a very lush color. And even like on the sides here, you just feel like on the sides of the grass, you can feel that rough edge. So that's typical of fescue, and the really bright green color too.
That's very cool. I have definitely felt that texture before in my own garden. So it's really cool. That's a great technique to just another way to identify it.
Right, and grasses are so difficult. So.
Yes, they are. This is foxglove beard tongue, Penstemon digitalis. Great for both large and small landscapes.
It's cute little...
Oh, it's so cute. I feel like bumblebee butts. This is where it's at. Beautiful.
We also have some prairie parsley blooming right now.
Very cute.
Out here.
That's nice.
Yeah. Just Platte Ridge Park, a local park that's free for everyone to enjoy, is this example that I give landowners that I have site visits with that want to know hands-on what a planting looks like, because I want them to really understand what it's going to look like. And it's hard to explain through pictures even. So if they can get a tangible experience, it's really great for our parks to have these examples as a good thing, to send them out here and they're like, oh my, yeah, I love that. I definitely want to do that. So a lot of times when I'm on those site visits, I'll be like, hey, go check out Platte Ridge Park. And they'll come here and they're like, yes, I want to do it 100%. So I use this as an example property for a lot of landowners in the area that are interested in doing this kind of stuff.
Very cool.
Yeah. All right, so we are just down the hill, like just right down the hill from where we just were. And as you can see, it's a stark difference from where we just were, but in the same park. And you know, lawns serve a purpose for people in a lot of different ways. You know, recreationally, for children, for pets. We like to use lawns as even like a status symbol for ourselves. Like, it looks good. We're proud of our lawns, and that pride even came from way back in the day, from settlers bringing that over in status. So it's a really ingrained in our society to have lawns, and there are purposes for lawns. But we just want to show the difference and why it's important to not have all of our spaces be lawns. So even like this park, they have some wild, some lawn, but here's a good space to see exactly the same location, just a little bit down, and kind of let's kind of look and see what we see, and hear, listen and see what you hear, and then we'll kind of talk about the differences that we were seeing from that native spot. There are some good species, you know, it's not all gloom and doom, especially out here, but maybe in your lawns there's not, because even me, like my front yard has to be, look, the neighbor next to me mowed yesterday, I need to mow, kind of thing. But I mean, we have some clover. This is decent pollinator, better than nothing. We got some dandelions, which is actually a really important early plant for pollinators to use. So yeah, but what you heard and what you saw was starkly different from that native planting that is just right up there, not that far from us at all. And what you see is very low diversity, and part of that reasoning is because of what we talked to before. You know, animals can't use this, they can't walk through this grass very easy, right? Those little ground nesting birds that they could use that prairie, they can't walk through this. And also, what else is missing here? We're also missing seed heads, right? We're missing seed heads, and we're missing the thatch is here too thick for people for the animals to get through. So we're missing seed heads. Also, I talked about the warming of the soils. As you can see here, I mean, you can see direct soil sunlight right here. It's very dry on the top, very dry. Another thing that we didn't really talk about is the root systems. So the root systems also are a huge carbon intake, and this fescue grass has very shallow, I think most of us, if you haven't seen it, it's very interesting, this graph that shows the fescue root system in the graphic like this, and then the natives about like that. So big difference there. Again, there's a time and place for fescue, but it's also only growing part of the year, and what we're missing in a lot of even like foraging and landscapes is that growing curve. So this green, cool season grass needs a lot of fertilizer in the summertime, right? We all want to fertilize our lawns. We need to fertilize it. We need to water it. It's dying. It's dying. Well, that's because the growing season is not meant for the summertime. So we have our peak growing system, and then it goes down to dormancy, you know, June, July, August, which is when we all are not having rain. And then it goes back up and starts growing in the cool season. That's why it's called cool season grass. And so that's why we're putting that fertilizer on and we're having to water it, is because of that the growing chart. So if we can use less of that, that would benefit cost your pockets, right? And that would really help the environment too, because if we're putting chemicals on our grass all year long, we're not having bugs. So then you're not having birds. So then you're not having primary consumers, secondary consumers. We're just shutting off all of the access for wildlife. And so it's important to just have some diversity, even if you're not comfortable with having a pollinator planting, even if you can at least plant some clover or not spray your dandelions out instantly. maybe a little bit later in the summer. Just something a little bit different than our management tools now, because like I said, 94% of Missouri is privately owned. And so if it's all our status level for humans, then there's not much space for wildlife. So that's kind of what we wanted to touch on here, and really the lack of birds, the lack of diversity that we're seeing, and just how that impacts everything else but humans, basically. And really it impacts humans at the end of the day too, because all those animals impact humans, and the cooling of the earth and the soil health impacts humans long term too. So that's all I kind of wanted to talk about today, and I'll be on here after this to answer any questions, or even just talk to you through some stuff or hear your thoughts on it. I'd love to hear that. So
All right. How about that? I thought it was really interesting to see that difference, or rather hear the difference between turf and native habitat garden. Cassandra, thank you so much. That was so wonderful.
yeah, of course, I love that too. That's what I try to explain to my landowners and communities when I meet with them. So it was nice to see it put together.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, we have many questions in our Q&A. So folks, if you have questions for Cassandra about how to manage habitat, whether it's forest or prairie, please go ahead and put it in the Q&A rather than the chat so that we can see them pop up and answer them. So we're just going to go ahead and dive in. I think the first question that a couple folks have asked, including Ruth and um, Adrian, or rather Sherry, is who would be the private land conservationist for Jackson County that they could contact?
Yes. So his name is Andy Carmack, Carmack, and he has been doing this a lot longer than me. So he probably even knows more than me, just from experience. He's great. If you need his contact information, there's on our website, there's a your property tab, and you can click your county, and it'll pull up all your specialists in your county. And it looks like they put that in the chat too, for his email. So yep, he's great. He's in Jackson County and Cass County.
Awesome. And I can attest to how awesome Andy is. He's been on some of our previous webinars, and he's just a joy to work with and really knows his stuff too. So that's awesome. And Cassandra, I'll get that link from you. So we'll share that in the resources following today's show.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we've got some questions about fescue. I just saw one pop up. This is kind of a twofold question. Can you explain again why fescue is considered a cool season grass? And then I'll circle back with the other question after that.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll say it slower. I know I talk fast. It's just in my nature. But yes, so if you look at a growth chart of cool season grass, including fescue, it's called a cool season grass because that's where it's actively growing, is in its cool season, and it's actually dormant in the warm season. So that's why we call warm season grasses warm season. So a lot of the native grasses are warm season. We also have cool season natives, but a lot of the ones we think of, like big blue stem and that, are warm season grasses. So the cool season flow chart has two growing points, right? In spring, it's green before everything else. And then it goes, the dormant period comes down in the summer, and then it comes back up in the fall for the cool season in the fall. And then our natives would be opposite of that, right? They have one peak in the warm season. So that's kind of explains the cool season fescue growth chart.
Interesting. And so like little blue stem, our native switchgrass, Sorghastrum nuttons, like all those would be considered warm season then. Is that correct?
Yes.
Cool. Awesome. So following up on fescue, does the texture make it better or worse for grazing animals versus our native grasses or forbs?
So I don't know about the texture. I don't think animals would care too much about the texture necessarily. However, I will say that there is a big issue with producers and having all fescue in their grazing systems for animals and wildlife too, because fescue, again, in the heat of the summer when animals are really needing that nutrients, that fescue, it produces toxins. And that those toxins actually raise the body temperature of the animals, and therefore the body temperature of the animals makes them basically sick. And that's why they're in the shade a lot or in the ponds. If you see livestock. On warm season grasses, native grasses, you won't see them hiding out, and they actually have a lot higher weight production in the summertime, which is really great for the wild, for even wildlife, and for the producers that need to make money on the livestock. So I do think there's a time for fescue because again, it gets greens up first, and you want forage all year long. So we recommend just a portion of people's properties being that native species, just to get that middle summertime um, harshness for the fescue. And also you're not going to be grazing down the fescue and creating an issue where you don't have enough forage in the fall because you graze it down too much during its dormant time. So just more nutrients in the summertime for the native grasses for sure.
That is so fascinating. And I've been hearing a lot of people talking about like, what about hybridized like landscapes? Because it can be really difficult, if not impossible, for some people to switch completely to native
Mm-hmm.
landscaping. So I love hearing that we can pretty much meet people where they're at, right, in their
Yeah,
journey, while still encouraging native plants. But just knowing like, yeah, you can kind of have both to get going. So that's very
definitely.
okay. So a few more, well, a lot more questions. So, question about planting native grass seeds directly into the fescue. If you did this, would the natives eventually push the fescue out, or does fescue have, yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, people have done that before. There's kind of ways to do it, but the success on it is it's going to be a lot more management basically. So if you're, uh, because the cool season grasses start their growing season always forever before the natives, they're pretty much always going to be able to outcompete the natives because of that growing season happening earlier. And so therefore they're going to get a head start on uptake of nutrients, on shade, sunlight. So if you plant it into fescue, you would have to be very careful, and like, it might take you a long time to get that process going. But if you're okay with some fescue being in there and willing to manage it, a good thing about planting it into fescue is that you could, because it has a different growing season, you could like spray it out with a grass selective herbicide early in the spring, or even when the natives are dormant, you could do it in the fall with a different herbicide. But yeah, I mean, it's best to just have that clean seed bed, the clean for the natives. It's best to have that equal playing field. Seed to soil contact is really important. So that fescue creates that mat, real thick mat most of the time. And so like the seed to soil contact would be really hard to get if you already have fescue there as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kind of lessen the competition. Yeah. So that leads into a question from Val. Was herbicide used initially to prep the restored park area?
Yes. Yep. It was two sprayings of glyphosate over the entire area. That's pretty much the standard, at least two. If you have invasive species like Johnson grass, that can be really hard to take care of, or Ceresia, we actually recommend more than that, just to make sure that you're not fighting that with your native planting after you spend money on your seed and that.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Um, a follow-up question about maintenance. Is it best to do a controlled burn before trying to start a native prairie?
I always recommend a burn because it gets rid of the thatch. That thatch is all that dead material from years and years that just piles onto the soil. And so burning it off, like you don't have to, but again, for that clean seed bed, sometimes even if you mow it or you spray it with herbicide, you're still going to have that dead material. So if landowners or homeowners feel comfortable burning the area, then I say go ahead and do it because it's going to make the success even better. And it actually puts nutrients back in the soil when you burn as well.
Mhm.
So I think it's a good idea, but not necessary.
Yeah, and I'm sure it kind of depends on like the fuel load, like what's in there and
Right.
the cool. Yeah, yeah. But
Exactly.
generally,
Exactly.
yeah, it's definitely, I think you've said this in a previous episode, but fire is one of the management tools in the toolbox. So,
Exactly. Exactly.
okay. So let's see here. We've got some really great questions in the Q&A. Oh, Joyce, let's answer Joyce's question about when this video was made.
Oh,
So,
yes. Oh,
yeah.
Cydney, help me out here. I
I have
think
my
it was
calendar in front of me. So it
okay. Yeah.
was it was end of June,
Yeah.
Beginning of July, that's where I see it now.
Right.
It was the second week of July, so pretty recent. Oh no, that would have been last week. It was the week before that. Sorry. I'm like,
You're
I have
good.
a in front of me. Do I know how to navigate it? No.
Right, right.
So yeah, pretty recent. Just a few weeks ago, we were out there. So I had asked Cassandra if she could visit the prairie or the park soon and give us an update on if the sunflowers are blooming or not.
Yeah.
So we'll
They
definitely,
will be. I bet
yeah,
you. I'm planning on going out there tomorrow, and I bet you they're going to be blooming. And that's the. I think I mentioned in the very beginning of this. This is that that's a management thing that they're concerned about is how much sunflower there is and how it's really taken that spot. But that's something that we talked to them about, and I'd rather that than Johnson grass or Ceresia. But yeah, we actively manage that spot.
that's very cool. And so, do you all overseed in the winter? Like, is that part of, do you do that to like diversify or like, what are some of your main
Sometimes,
plans for that?
yeah. So in that planting we haven't. In that planting they mow it. I think it's once a year in the late fall, and then they will burn it every 3 to 5 years. So that's pretty much their management. Their maintenance crew goes out and works on the invasives that pop in. I mean, really, the invasives look really good out there. So, but if any other management, that's their typical management. But I mean, as far as management goes for other things, if we have a Johnson grass issue in a different planting, then we can intercede. I have one project going on right now in Platte County where the planting kind of had a problem with Johnson grass, and so some of those spots that were really thick with Johnson grass didn't get as good of diversity, and so we are going to burn. We're going to take care of the Johnson grass, and we're going to burn it down, and we're going to intercede over that. So
Well, that segues nicely into Nancy's question about Illinois bundle weed. She's noticing that seems to make up 95% of her small restoration. Can you talk a little bit about why that may be and what she may want to do from this point forward?
yeah, so it's very interesting that since I began this position a little bit less than 4 years ago, it's so fascinating how different everyone's plantings are, even if they have the exact same seed mix. Like I have two projects this year that they just planted, and basically one of them has had to be mowed like 4 times, and it's completely just thick with annual weeds and foxtail, and the other one hasn't needed to be mowed at all. It's mostly the natives that are popping up. And I'm not worried about either of them, but the management and the species that take hold in specific areas are so unique to each site that it just depends on your situation. As far as like taking care of the bundleweed, I don't know how long your planting has been established, but they do go through fluxes every year. Like some years it'll be really thick. Cydney and I were just talking about, or I think it was someone else I was talking with, but rattlesnake master has been seen to be a big one this year, like thick rattlesnake master in our plantings where it wasn't before. And so it really is like the land knows what it needs and wants that year and what plant can grow that year. If it's a consistent issue, maybe we could focus on it. I just don't know anything about your planting, how big it is. It depends. Maybe you could dig some of them out. Maybe you could cut the seed heads off at least and get that. Maybe we could burn it. I don't know if it's really thick, but make the competition equal again to allow for some of the other species to come in. So it would really depend on your site and like how long it's been there and the issues that would be in that specific spot for
Yeah,
sure.
that it sounds like this could, depending on where you're at, Nancy, it sounds like you need to get in touch with your private land conservationist. So don't forget, folks, following today's program, I will be sending out an email with resources, including all the specialists that can help you with your projects in your landscape. So keep an eye out for that. Okay, so moving on to another question. Let's see. Okay, Barbara's asking about white crown beard, and if it is maybe a more prolific, or someone may say like an aggressive native. They're beginning to clear invasives and found a transition to an abundance of this plant this season. Do you have any insight on that, Cassandra?
I actually have not dealt with that species that much. Cydney, have you dealt with it that much? I have not dealt with it in that
I
capacity.
have. Yeah. So I love crown beard. But again, it's one of those taller native prairie species that is appropriate for certain spaces, right? So at the Discovery Center, we have an area that is a more naturalized wild area, and it does get pretty tall, like at least a few feet above me. They're very important though for our generalist pollinators. So if it feels like an appropriate space, I say leave it. They also produce these really cool frost flowers, which I will include information about that in the resources too. So anyway, I could go down a whole rabbit hole, but again, it kind of depends on your goals, Barbara. But what I do notice is when you're removing invasives, you're opening up the seed bank, you're opening up the soil for other plants to come in and take hold. So I often find when I'm removing one invasive species, I often will see another invasive species come in. Like when I get rid of the honeysuckle, then there's winter creeper or maybe even Japanese hops. So it's just kind of interesting, like you're saying, Cassandra, there's seasons, there's flows, all of that.
Yeah. And I would say again, like whenever I talk to my landowners, like in the scheme of things, like that's not, I'd rather that than another invasive take up that spot, right? So I think I might just wait and see how it fluctuates. But it depends on your goals. Like if you can't, if it's too much, then you do, you can cut the seed heads off, just like I was mentioning before, burn it or mow it and get equal competition and see what grows at that point. But yeah, it just totally depends on your what you're okay with, basically.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Can you remind us approximately how much land is privately owned in Missouri?
Yeah. I don't know the exact number, but I know it's about 93 to 94%
It's
of
pretty
all
high.
the lands. And so, yeah, like Missouri Department of Conservation is great about they brought around this private land aspect. Not not too long ago, kind of now. Like I'm getting older, so it's been like a long time. But since the inception, it wasn't there in the beginning. But there really is a focus on knowing how much private land there is and how much control we have over like our native, keeping the native habitat in our public areas. We love doing that, but we also see the need for the private land assistance because that's where all the bulk of the land use is, and that's where the wildlife really need to have something to go to, and the health of our soils and all that as well.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Pam is asking about that thatch you mentioned earlier. Um, why does thatch form instead of just composting back into the soil?
That's a good question. So historically, prescribed fire was on the landscape, okay, like in the prairies and all that. So like thatch would have been taken care of naturally back in that time. But the thing is that whenever we put fertilizer on our grass and we want it to be lush and thick, and so after mowing it and mowing it and mowing it, it just keeps piling up. So it doesn't really give a chance for it to fully disintegrate. So it depends on your property, but a lot of times it won't disintegrate all the way, and because it's just so thick. Just like in California out west, the problems with wildfires, those were historical too. But now the issue is that there's so much mulch, pine needles stacked up so deep from not having that natural disturbance that's a problem now. Where before it wouldn't have been a problem with the heat of killing the trees and all that because it would have been a thin layer and it would have been burned off quickly. So basically, that's why it's just not enough disturbance over time on the landscape, and it just builds up.
That's so fascinating. Um, okay, y'all, we still have tons of questions here in the Q&A, but I'm going to pause for one moment so we can do our pop quiz. So you may have heard at the beginning and end of today's program a ground nesting bird call. The first person who can correctly identify who was singing that song at both the beginning and the end of today's episode will win a set of native plant note cards by our local artist, Nancy Waugh. So you had to be really paying attention to this one. Oh, we
Yeah,
got
I
it.
see it.
I see it. Okay, Val, I think I know what you meant. So Val Frankowski, you are going to be the winner of today's cards. So very good for paying attention, all of y'all. It was a Bob White quail. And I absolutely love Bob Whites. And their namesake comes from their call. So Cassandra, do you do a good Bob White call?
No, unfortunately, I can't do any accents.
Okay.
I can't do that.
Can't do any accents. That's hilarious. Let me try it. Ooh, Bob White? Bob White? So they
That's
sound like they're saying
perfect.
Bob White. It's pretty awesome.
Hmm.
Um, and I threw that in there because Cassandra showed in today's episode just how important this type of native habitat is for our baby birds, including little tiny quails, which is just so cool and cute in my opinion. So very good, y'all, for playing with us there. And while I have you here, I also just want to plug our next episode on August 1st, Lunch and Learn, again with Cassandra Messer, DIY prairie restoration. Y'all, you do not want to miss this episode because it is just an incredible display of what you can do in your own property. We have two private landowners who are joining us for the next episode to talk about their journey in native habitat restoration. So please join us on Thursday, August 1st at 12 p.m. Central. It's truly an amazing sight to behold. Don't you think, Cassandra?
Oh yeah, I'm so excited about that. Yep.
Yeah, you all saw how excited I was about today's episode. Just you wait. I'm going to be freaking out next time, too. So, okay, we're going to answer just a couple more questions. Thank you all so much for just really your engagement today. Lots of great questions out there. And Cassandra, of course, for your expertise. So, okay, let's see where we're at. Okay, so Julie's asking if we'll be able to include Kansas specialists in the resource list, and I will. I will go ahead and include some resources for those who are on the Kansas side who don't have access to private land conservationists through MDC, since MDC is a Missouri state government agency. They do work within the state of Missouri. So great question, and I will include some resources in the show. Okay, Kelly is asking, are there any parallel suggestions for working with typical residential, commercial, irrigated lawns in the city to make them more diverse and available for pollinators? What are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Yeah, it just depends on like your situation, but really one of the things I like to encourage is not spraying out the dandelions first spring. At the very minimum, try to just hold out. You know, I know it's hard. Trust me, I have a home in the urban area, and I totally understand the pressure of urban land management. But I try to wait at least for the early pollination for the other species to start blooming before I take care of my weeds in my front yard. And I see a lot of violets in my yard too, and pollinators love that. And secondarily to that, another option would be adding clover into your lawns and not mowing that. And that's actually like my neighbor across the street has like almost all clover. He has it's treed area, and he doesn't have to mow it that often. It looks nice. It's green, and that can be a really good pollinator for animals as well. So at the very minimum, I know it's difficult to do in those spaces, and then just garden beds, right? Like I take away some garden areas and then just take that and make it look purposeful, and plant those natives in those garden spaces around my home. And then my backyard, which is like up the hill, and like no one can really see it. I have 8 foot tall Joe Pye weed back there. You
Yes.
know, I'm really excited about. So no one needs to see that, but I know there's a good pollinator section back there. So I kind of work with my space. But yeah, I think not spraying the weeds right away, at least at the very minimum, and then if you can plant some clover, get some diversity, that would be good. Secondarily.
Those are really good suggestions because yeah, it's like if you need that kind of lawn appearance, how do you still support wildlife? So thank you for those suggestions. I think that's something almost anyone can do in their own
Yeah.
space. Okay, everyone, that is all the time we have for today. Thank you so much, Cassandra, for lending your expertise yet again during our Lunch and Learn episode. And don't forget, folks, join us again Thursday, August 1st at 12 p.m. Central to see a stunning transformation of turf into what you see here on the screen, which is native prairie restoration. We'll see you all then. Thanks so much, Cassandra. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.